Okay, so where were we? Sorry about the interruption. We were talking about my childhood, how I was as a kid, and I was talking about how I was rambunctious, rebellious, a wild child. Let's see, we had Chris getting hit by the car, me skateboarding. Skateboarding became really a big part of my life. In my young teenage years, I got into a group of friends that were skateboarders, as my dad and mom probably would have thought not a great group of friends, but they were my friends. God, some of them are dead or in prison now, but it's just who I fell in line with because I was a skateboarder. And then back then, there was just this wave of skateboarding that went across the country in the early 2000s. And so they had skate shops opening up. That's where we'd go hang out, was the skate shops, trying to get sponsored by skate companies and going to the skate parks. And my life really just revolved around skateboarding. And we did not have, there were no smartphones. I didn't have cell phones. We didn't have iWatches, no iPads. We had computers, but you had to dial into the internet. So if someone was on the phone in the house, you couldn't use the internet. So really we were more outdoors back then. And so I remember my parents, they split up. My mom and dad got divorced. I don't remember what year that was, but my mom moved to another house in La Cañada. We bounced around to a couple of different houses, and I kind of have like fleeting memories of a lot of them, but I'm just going to touch on some of like the big ones that I remember. There was a house on Oakwood, and I think it was, you know what? I'll find the address. I don't want to guess because I'll give you the wrong address and you'll just be on the wild goose chase. But it was a cool house. My mom was starting a gym, a fitness company called Sweats, SWETZ. It was another gym in La Cañada she was trying to start. It failed. It didn't go anywhere. But that was just that moment in life. And the boys and I were kind of becoming, young preteens. So I just remember in the backyard, jumping on the trampoline, jumping from the trampoline to the roof of the house, jumping back down, getting the trampoline wet with the hose and slipping. How we didn't end up in the hospital multiple times is wild. But I did end up in the hospital one time. I was skateboarding. It was either my birthday, I think it was my 14th birthday. And we went to a skate park in Oxnard, California. It was a Vans skate park. And so Vans, which is a clothing company, I don't think I'm wearing any Vans right now. My shoes Vans? No. Vans is a clothing company, and it was big in the skating scene in the early 2000s. So for my 14th birthday, which would be actually the year 2000, the millennium, we went to the Vans skate park right around November 4th, and we sent two of my friends and myself to the hospital in one trip. I can imagine my friends' parents were like, what the hell are you people doing? First hospital trip was my buddy Adam Lugo, and I think he was trying to drop into a half pipe, fell forward on the drop-in, straight to the ground, broke his wrist right there. Paused the birthday, got to take the kid to the hospital. They ship him off. I want to say Adam's mom came with us, so she was able to break off, take him to the hospital. He's getting his wrist put into a cast. Bam, everybody back to the skate park. Birthday continues. Not an hour later, Nick Creasy, one of my best friends, doing a double roll-in. So it's one of those ramps that it rolls, flattens out, and rolls again. Double roll-in, wants to sit down on a skateboard because we were a little nervous to stand up. I think I had just done it sitting down, so he wanted to do it sitting down, or he was going first and I was after him. Goes down the first roll-in, picks up some speed. On the second roll-in, the board lifts off the ground because he's got some speed. His his right leg falls under, or his left leg, one of his legs, falls under the skateboard. While he's in the air, he lands on it, snaps his leg. Boom. Pause the birthday. Back to the hospital again. Got to put his leg in a cast. So now we've taken out Adam, we've taken out Nick, and then there's the birthday boy, Mike. I don't remember. I want to say it was on a half pipe or a roll-in, but I actually don't really remember how I fell. I end up falling somehow. I end up getting a scratch on my knee. So wear your pads, kids. Helmets, elbow pads, knee pads, wrist pads. These things are meant to save your bones in your body. But I didn't, right? Because I'm too cool for that. And I get it if you're too cool too. I get a scratch on my knee. I get a staph infection in the growth plate, in my joint. I get something called juvenile arthritis. They're afraid that my growth plate's not going to grow normally. I'm going to be a little stubby guy. One leg will be shorter than the other. Legitimately have to have orthoscopic surgery. I'm on a catheter into my arm for antibiotics to be pumped directly to my heart for weeks. A nurse has to come by our house twice a day to give me these injections. When I say I was a headache for my parents, and that wasn't the only time. I can't remember if I told you this or not in one of our other videos, but I used to travel a lot when I was a kid. My parents were really big into traveling. So we went to Europe one time. I think I was a little older now. I'm in high school or junior high. And we go to Europe for a summer trip, which of course, nowadays it would be a dream. I would be tickled to death to do a trip like that. I mean, to imagine that kind of traveling to go to Europe. But back when I was 14, I didn't want to go to Europe over summer. I wanted to hang out with my friends. I was furious that my mean old parents were forcing me to go to Europe, right? How dare they? Well, there's a big time change. You get this thing called jet lag. We were flying back from Rome or Paris or one of these various European countries that we'd been to, and I was so tired and zonked out, but I couldn't wait. I wanted to go out and skateboard with my friends. There's a hill, we called it Michigan Hill. I don't know why it's called Michigan Hill. The street is Foothill Boulevard, but it's the part of Foothill that goes under the 210 freeway in La Cañada near the McDonald's. It goes up the hill. There's St. Francis and I can't remember the name of the school. St. Francis High School and Flintridge Prep, I want to say, and then St. Bede's. I think those are the three schools that are right there. When you get to the top or under the freeway, the hill, it starts to go up a hill, and then you hit the top of this massive drop in and this hill that goes down, and I was gonna bomb it. Never bombed it before, did not possess the skill set to do that on a skateboard, but I was so probably zonked out and tired from our trip. I said, I can do this. So of course I bomb the hill, make it about halfway down, and then I go black. I don't remember anything else from that. Found out later is I had caught an edge or a rock or got speed wobbles. Somehow I fell, and when I fell backwards. So I used to ride regular stance. So there's goofy and regular. Regular stance means my left foot was forward, my right foot was back. And so as I'm going down left foot forward, I turn in towards my stomach, go backwards off my board, and I hit the back of my head, probably doing about 30 miles an hour coming down that hill. I mean, it was a really steep hill. Biggest hill I'd ever bombed. Luckily, I was wearing a helmet, and the doctor said the helmet saved my life. I split the helmet in two, ended up cracking my head open, had to get staples in the back of my head, give myself such a big concussion that I literally knocked myself silly. If you've ever heard the saying, you knocked yourself silly. End up in the hospital, don't remember the next 2 days of my life. I remember coming to at home, my mom is bawling and crying because her baby boy just cracked his head open. My dad is probably a little pissed at me for doing it. But that was my childhood growing up. I was a rebel without a cause. And so, boys, if you do that, never let your mom or I give you too much shit for it, because we were also pretty crazy. All right. Did you get a nickname growing up? No, I was just Wyatt. I don't know why we went by last names, or Mike or Wyatt. No, did not have any nicknames, at least not that I was told that I had. Maybe somebody had a nickname for me, but it wasn't one that I was told about. Who were your best friends in elementary school, and are you still in contact with them? Yes. So I grew up friends with, again, these were the skateboarding kids. Nick Creasy, still a very good friend of mine. I hang out with him all the time. Boys and eventually Sissy, you'll meet him. You're a little young now, but that's who we go hang out with, man. We go to Billy B's, the play place. We go to Six Flags to play with his kids. I've known Nick since we were in 5th grade, since I transferred to La Cañada. You know, let me preface that. Prior to my transfer, that's when we moved to 4242. When we lived at 1018, I went to a school called Crestview Elementary School, which was also in La Cañada. Some of those friends I am not in contact with. So my best friend back then was a guy named Christian Javinsky. Common spelling. Good luck finding that. His mom was Tina Fahad. His father was Ronald Javinsky. And, obviously as a kid, I hung out with them all the time. But when I transferred schools, I kind of lost touch with them. Also in that group of friends was a kid named Mark Kaba, Kenny Donahue, and God, there's another kid, and I can't remember his name. Oh my God, because his dad was my dad's best friend. He was his best man at his wedding. Oh, my memory. Maybe I shouldn't film these videos as I'm going into work, because I'm just waking up, getting the kids to school, and I'm tired. Bob Knopf. So Bob Knopf was my dad's best friend. His son, Marshall Knopf. That was kind of our group. So Christian Javinsky, Marshall Knopf, Mark Kaba, Kenny Donahue. That was my group of friends from like kindergarten to 4th grade. I'm not in contact with any of them anymore. Grew apart when I transferred to La Cañada Elementary School in 5th grade. That's when I became friends with Nick Creasy, Adam Lugo. Adam Lugo and I were like really good friends growing up. We still keep in touch, but growing up we were really good friends. And in college too. I hung out with Adam a lot. He went to college in San Diego. I love San Diego. Kids, when you're old enough, go to San Diego. I mean, who knows what San Diego will be like, but 20 years ago, San Diego was the place to be. I loved it. And Adam Lugo went there to school, so I became really good friends with him. Nick Creasy, Adam Lugo, Matt Simon, who I think is still alive. I'm not in contact with him. He had some issues after high school. We had another kid named Matt Barker. Matt Barker overdosed and died shortly after high school. He was in our group of friends. Like I said, I wasn't friends with like the popular kids. I wasn't friends with the cool kids. I was friends with the rebels, the punks, and we were punks. I mean, in the early 2000s, late 90s, right? Wearing the black wristbands with the little studs on it, and the spiked hair. I had Liberty blue hair spikes I remember the morning of 9/11, 2001. I had Liberty hair spikes that were blue, and my dog Peanut came in when I was asleep. He licked my hair clean. So yeah, I'm in contact with a core group of friends. You will find that that's how it kind of works. That's how my parents told me it was going to work. You will find your core group, and those are going to be the 1 or 2 people or 3 people that you stick with, and then you're in contact with pretty much for the rest of your life. A guy named Jordan Balassi and Corey Murphy, they were very good friends in our group. Corey kind of went off. We're not really friends with them anymore, but Jordan is still a very good friend. In fact, he married Tanya Rittenhouse, who was another friend of ours, and Jordan and Tanya, we're still friends as couples, like we're friends today into our late 30s. There's another, this wasn't really elementary school, but in college, some friends that we became friends with and that we're still friends with. Nick Creasy's older brother Paul, he and I became really close friends in college. He ended up marrying a girl named Julie Creasy, and her sister Jeanette, her name was Julie Listina. She's now Julie Creasy because they got married. And her sister Jeanette Listina got married to a friend of ours named Matt Ruffalo, and so now she's Jeanette Ruffalo. So most of my friends kind of stuck to the La Cañada crew, and they all got married. I was one of the only ones that kind of parted out. I went and met your mom, Casey, in college. But I met her through Jeanette because Jeanette and Casey were roommates in college. So, okay. What were your regular chores? Did you get an allowance? How much was it? What did you spend on it? I did. In elementary school, I had an allowance, and I got $20 a week. So it was $5 a day. Sometimes it was $25 a week. $5 a day every morning going to school. My dad would give me a $5 bill. And that was to last us through the day. Keep in mind, in the early 2000s, you could get through the day on $5. Now I feel like $5 buys me a cup of coffee. Thanks, Joe Biden. I had to do chores around the house. My dad was big on that growing up. He wanted us to know the value of a dollar. So we grew up very well to do. My dad had lots of money. I grew up in a $1 million mansion, multi-million-dollar mansion. I grew up never wanting or needing anything. But my dad wanted to instill in us the concept of money and what it meant to earn money. So yes, I had chores, laundry, dishes, clean your room. And if we didn't do them, well, we probably still got paid because we had to get money to go to the cafeteria and get lunch. But Yes, I had chores growing up, and I did get an allowance. Describe what your room looked like when you were growing up. Was it messy or clean? Did you have paintings or posters on the walls? What were the main colors? My room at 4242 which is the one I can remember, at 1018 Marengo Drive, which was when I was like really little. I shared a room with my brother Chris, I think. Maybe not. Could be totally wrong. But I don't really remember any sort of the details of the room. I think it had a bunk bed or at least something like that. But, you know what? Go on Redfin or Zillow and look up the interior of 1018 Marengo Drive. If you go into the house through the double doors, off to the left was like the living room area. I remember my parents would have Christmas parties there. And I just remember Christmas parties because of the Jordan almonds. If you went off to the left and then made a right and went up, that was the dining room area. We never ate in there. It was a formal dining room. If you went to the right, that went off to a guest bedroom on the first floor. That was a room that I never really went into. I was kind of scared of that room because it was super dark and like nobody ever went in there. Off to the right and then up was the living room area. That living room just had couches in it. I mean, you know, a normal living room in the 90s. And off to the right of that was a little playroom, which I don't even know how to describe because I've never seen a room like that before. But it was like a long, thin room that had to have been an addition onto that house. That was our playroom where we used to, you know, store our toys. And then connecting the living room to that formal dining room, there was a kitchen, right? I mean, a pretty standard layout for a first floor. Off the main entryway, right in front of you as you walked in, was a set of stairs that went up to the second floor. If you kept going straight, that was my parents' bedroom, the master. Off their master was a master bath, and they had a walk-in closet that was L-shaped, and it went to an office, which was kind of like the second floor of that addition where the playroom was. It was kind of a cool layout, honestly. Like I'd be cool with a house like that. I've checked in on it. I don't think I've ever seen it for sale since the person that bought it from us. If you made the U-turn at the top of the stairs, those were the 2 bedrooms, those were the kids' bedrooms, and mine was the one off to the right. So if you're looking at the house, 1018 Marengo Drive is on the north side of the street. Marengo's and East-West Streets on the north side. Our bedrooms were on the south end of the house, second floor. Mine was in the southwest corner. There you go. 4242. Couldn't even begin to describe that house. It was so massive. Just a massive. We had 2 different stairways to get to the second floor. And what's wild is when you grow up and that's what you know, that became that was normal to me. I thought everyone grew up like that. My bedroom, if you ever look at the schematics, was right at the front of the house. So the second floor, there was only one bedroom that faced the front of the house. And that was my bedroom. And yes, so back in the day, we took pictures with cameras where we had to get film printed, actual photographs. So my walls were covered in photographs, just of my friends and of adventures that we had. I had skateboard posters. I remember one in particular. There's a company called Girl, Girl, and its logo was like the girl restroom sign or something like that. I had a big poster of that. Emerica, the company Emerica, Emerica was like a shoe company, skateboard company. That, for whatever reason, resonated with me because they sponsored Chad Muska. Chad Muska was my favorite skateboarder growing up. So I remember having a lot of Emerica stuff. In fact, my first screen name, username, I guess we called them screen names back then, online was Emerica Fire. That was it. That was my first one ever. EMERICAFIRE. And my first email was emericafire@hotmail.com. Blink-182 stuff. To this day, Blink-182 is my favorite band. No question about it. I had a ton of Blink-182 stuff on the wall, listen to their music. And for what it's worth, kids, in 2023, I took your mom to a Blink-182 concert. And then I went to When We Were Young, the festival where Blink-182 played. And this year in 2025, we're going back. We love Blink-182. Your mom does too. All right, well, that was my room growing up. I don't really remember. It had a black desk. It changed over the years. I had a TV in my room. That was a terrible idea. I had my own computer in my room. That was a terrible idea. Totally unhinged, unrestricted, and unsupervised on the internet as an adolescent teen when the internet was first coming out. There's rules now. There weren't rules back then. The dark web was the web. What's one thing you miss about being a kid? And I'll end it here. So let me fold the page over. One thing you miss about being a kid. the carefree attitude of everything. You know, I didn't have a care in the world. I was very lucky. My parents provided everything to me. I was never hungry. I never missed out on an event. I got to travel. I got to do everything. I didn't have to worry about bills. I didn't have to worry about anything. You were just so carefree, and it was a different outlook. And I miss my friends and my parents at that age. You know, someone once told me that you can't relive the past, that the past happened and now you got to look forward to the future because life changes. And it always does. You know, every year you get older, They Might Be Giants, great song. You're older than you've ever been, and now you're even older. And now you're even older. And now you're even older. But I miss the carefree attitude that we had. The city of La Cañada had a bus system called the LCF shuttle, the La Cañada shuttle, that ran up and down Foothill Boulevard. The city of La Cañada is on a giant hill. So we had a free shuttle that would take us to the top of the hill, and then we just skateboard down it. That was our mode of transportation. Going to friends' houses, traveling. As much as I hated traveling as a kid because I just wanted to be with my friends, God, those are the best memories. Hawaii, the Gemini, playing cards with my dad. I still don't remember the name of that game that we played. I'll find out. But that's something I miss the most about my childhood, was being carefree. That's not to say I don't like where I am now. I love my life. I have a perfect life. It's just different because life always changes. Every day you wake up and you're a new person, and everyone that you deal with is a new person. And there's always different life events, and it keeps moving forward. Time continues whether you're ready or not. So you gotta pick yourself up, because if you don't jump on the train, you're gonna get left behind. If I had to pick one memory, I would absolutely say my favorite memory with my dad and mom together as a couple would be Hawaii, the Westin Maui, just being with them. My favorite memory with my friends is just, without a doubt, the skateboarding days. We did not use computers. There was no vlogging and video games and blogging or whatever. You got out of school and it was go skateboard till the sun was down, or play with your friends and then go home. We had to call house lines to make plans and show up at the same place. You know, after school, our meeting place was the McDonald's in La Cañada, right at the bottom of Foothill where the 210 is, south of Gould, or east of Gould if you're looking at it that way. And after school, I didn't have to go meet my friends anywhere because I knew, show up at the McDonald's, they're all going to be there. And then we would just hang out and branch off from there. When I was younger, my dad and mom would take us to the LA car show. That sticks out in my mind. I don't know why that was so significant for me, but kids, I'm going to take you to the car show because I loved doing that. I loved going to the car show with my parents. I loved cars. I still do. But that's... And if I had to pick one memory, I mean, how do you sum up your entire childhood into one memory? That would probably be it. So that's going to be where I pause today. We're like 4 pages into this 100-page book. I think this is going to be a lot longer video series than I planned on. I'm probably going to have to figure out how to upload this to YouTube or something, and then figure out how to set it to private so like you guys don't see it until it's time for you to see it. But yeah, that's day 2. So I love you. I love you. I love you. I will love you to the day I die. I will love you, and I'll tell you why. You were right for me. You were meant for me. I will love you. What would I do if our love wasn't true? You're all that I need, so believe me when I say I will love you. Casey, my wife, my beautiful wife. Mwah. Jonathan, my oldest boy. Mwah. I love you. Nikki, my second child. Mwah. And Evie, my little princess. Mwah. I love you all.